Hi, welcome back to my channel, or hello if you're new. I know it's been a minute, but I've been really busy preparing for a shop update as well as just figuring out my life during these times. Okay, we are jumping right into this time lapse. I know Procreate videos tend to be quite fast, so I've compiled 3 different sketch sessions into this one video, and we're going to start with the most recent one. Now, I'm not really the biggest fan of drawing for the sake of drawing and not having any sort of plan, but I was okay with it this time around because I think I just really needed some low-stakes sketching that wasn't gonna make me crash out. I'd say the second time-lapse was the most fun session for me because it was a little less aimless. I knew that I wanted to draw some foxes or cutesy wolves interacting with each other, and having even just like that little prompt helped me more than just I'm gonna draw some dogs. Some of these sketches are pretty janky, if I'm being honest, and I can't blame all of that on being rusty. I really do need to brush up, but they were still fun, and you can still see like some of my thought process as I'm sketching away. You're also gonna see me draw a bunch of things and delete them. What isn't working in my favor is that aimlessness that I mentioned earlier. I'm just kind of going with the flow, and I don't really know what I'm doing when I put that first line down. I just see where my hand takes me. So if you see me like redrawing stuff and hesitating, it's just because I'm thinking about everything. I'm like, oh, I don't know where to put this. Hopefully this works out, and then either it does or it doesn't. I don't thrive on impulsivity with art or many things, to be honest, and yet I put myself through it. I have developed my own shorthand for dogs over the years, and I find them very fun to draw. When I was really getting into drawing, I started in the depths of the internet drawing emo wolves and whatever else, but I really didn't understand anatomy or construction. I'd use circles for placement, but not always understand why or what was going on with overlaps, let alone form. So there was a lot of searching and struggling in my art process until I was in animation school, to be honest. I don't think the crazy struggle I felt was always visually apparent, and I think that just comes down to perseverance. Like, with enough time, I could get things looking all right, and having taste helps with that. But my goodness, taking the time to understand how to construct things properly is so incredibly important. If you have a good foundation, you can apply any style you want to that base. So if animals are something that you struggle with, start with the bones. Learn how they articulate, learn how the animal you want to draw moves, because so much of animal drawing comes down to believability of the action and not having totally broken anatomy. It doesn't need to be perfect, but if your legs are bending the wrong way or the proportions and joint placements are too off, like giving horses doggish looking legs, I see that a lot, things start to break. Start with the bones and gain some knowledge of the muscles as well, because both those things will make finding your shapes so much easier. Shape design is so important for appeal, and anatomy helps inform the shapes that you choose. I like to draw body parts over and over, as well as the subject as a whole, trying out different shapes, playing around with how many lines I can use or limit myself to while still conveying the subject clearly. Through this repetition, some of these drawing motions are going to eventually become second nature, and it's a really nice feeling when that happens because suddenly you're not constructing from zero every time that you draw. You'll start to find shapes or shorthands that work for you personally that simplify muscle groups and whatever else. Okay, enough of that. These ones were so fun. I couldn't sleep and it was super late. Like, I think I started drawing these close to 2 a.m. There was a big thunderstorm going on. I had some Wolf's Rain music playing. It was a good time. I'm like picking between the bottom left and bottom right. I think I do the bottom right one last, and I was definitely fading at that point, but I just really felt like I needed to finish all 3 in one go. Otherwise, I don't know when I would have finished them. And I knew I needed to get back to shop stuff the next day or like a few hours later, so I wanted to wrap them up. A big struggle that I faced with these ones was clearing enough negative space because there's so many legs and like tails and overlap, like they're squished together, right? A big struggle with this set was making sure that all of the poses read and that I had good silhouettes and negative space going on. There's so much overlap that I needed to worry about because the foxes are close together and they're running in a couple of them, and like the face is squished on top of the other in the last one. So I really need to be mindful that the poses and like the leg positions look correct enough while not compromising the overall silhouette of them together as a unit. I'm sure someone else could have worded that more succinctly, but basically there were a lot of legs to worry about. I don't always shade my sketches, but for these ones, I feel like it really helped like add a lot of life, and so did that ground plane with a bit of the ground shadow. Okay, here we go. For this one, I was getting pretty tired and starting to hit decision fatigue. I originally wanted the second fox to be standing, and I was pretty attached to that for a bit, but eventually I switched them up to be sitting, and I do like the more compact silhouette the switch up created. But again, like all the legs and the tails overlapping in such a tight space, especially because one is sitting and I kind of had to tuck his little feet under the body of the other one. It just really had me doing some problem solving. I was not in the mood for the problem solving at that point in time, but it needed to get done, and so it did. Yeah, I left a lot in so you can see there was just so much finagling and redrawing and like just selecting it and kind of moving the body out and seeing what fit. Yeah, kind of a pain, but it's cute. Because I'm coloring these sketches, sometimes I like having like a little bit of a softer kind of blur to the line. So I'm duplicating my sketch layer and I just Gaussian, I can't remember. Anyway, I blur it a little bit and then I drop the opacity. And Linguini. Sorry, my cat is getting into things. Okay. Onto the last set, which I believe was actually the first ones that I drew. So yeah, sometimes I draw things on an angle. I have to draw with my iPad rotated or my sketchbook rotated, and my cat is just getting into I have so many boxes right now because of all the stuff I've been getting. And she loves a good box, but that means that I gotta cat-proof everything. I really like how the top left one turns out in the end. I did have a bit of a hard time with the head on the one on the left. I have a tendency to lean towards wide eye spacing. I think sometimes you have a preference, like some people will make them a little bit more close together or like perfectly spaced. I think I lean wide based on what I'm remembering of my own art right now, but sometimes that makes me end up having skulls that are like too big up top and it just doesn't work. So I always gotta bring it back in later. So I think that happened with this one. And just playing around with the size of the muzzle and the cheek fluff. I feel like I've talked about this in a couple of my past videos as well, that I find cute proportions to be a little bit challenging. Sometimes when it comes to dogs, that means that I'll make the muzzles extra long, but I'll have cute proportions in place with the eyes. So there's this bit of a discrepancy, I guess, between the proportions going on. Basically all that to say, it just takes me a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of redrawing, but eventually it will become cute the way I want it to be. I don't really have much to say about this one. It's cute. He's got a flower in his mouth. I think I take it out later. Maybe not. And then one quick little bonus doodle that I think actually goes with the first ones. But anyway, so here those ones all are. I also did this other one that has a little raincoat. I think it's cutest with the ears poking through the raincoat, even if it's not practical. A few of my friends said that it would help keep the hood on and let the dog see. So I'm gonna roll with that. And if I ever do anything with that sketch, I will keep the cute, if not slightly impractical one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.